Okay, Lauren, we are recording. Good to go.
Thank you. And thank you all for joining us this afternoon at the board meeting of NYC School Bus Umbrella Services. I note for the record that we have a quorum to conduct business. As an initial matter and to facilitate preparation of the minutes for this meeting, I would like to designate Board Director Min as interim secretary for the meeting. Next, I'd like to ask each of you to please keep yourselves on mute unless you are speaking in order to eliminate unnecessary background noise and feedback. I'd like to welcome Matt, our recently appointed CEO, to his first full meeting as CEO of NYCSBUS. Welcome, Matt. Next, I will preview the agenda, which today includes the approval of minutes from our last meeting on March 25th, 2021, a parent update from Chief Executive Officer Matt Berlin, executive session, and consideration of resolutions. Our first item is the approval of the minutes from our March 25th, 2021 meeting. Board directors, this is item number 2 in your packet. Do I have a motion to put the item on the table?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any questions on the minutes? All in favor? Our next item of business is a parent engagement update from the Chief Executive Officer. Matt, the floor is yours.
Hey everybody, so I wanted to give you all a quick update on what we're doing. We're going to talk later about approving a contract, so we don't have any buses to operate. So we've been getting ready for the transition, but we've also already been engaging a lot with parents. Nida and I have been on the phone a few times. We've exchanged some emails and are starting to move this forward. Even before kind of going into a little background on parent engagement, I just wanted to, you might know this, but just by way of context on the kind of busing we're doing, the city of New York has, for school-age children, traditionally broken down busing as either general ed or special ed. The general ed service is a stop to school busing. Children go to a stop and they're driven to school. And the busing for special ed children is a door-to-door service. And those children typically, and there's some exceptions to this, I can imagine in a great way, Sean is making notes. I can't see him now. Typically, those children have an individualized education plan. So those children have needs that are identified in an IEP. And the order that we will get, we are a special ed busing company, really is governed by OPT, the Pupil Transportation Office, and the IEP. And so NYCSBUS will be an order fulfiller. We're going to talk later about the contract, but our basic function is someone tells us to bus a child, how and where to bus that child, and we do that. And it is it's a challenging service. It's a 400 square mile city. The IEPs can be quite specific, and children have a variety of needs. So it's, there's a lot of work here. It's why it's so exciting to do this work. And even again, before talking about parents, I just wanted to sort of in that context, we've been thinking about 5 ways to address the challenges broadly. So one of them is around equipment, making sure not only we have the right equipment, but maintenance is good, and we're sure that we're using buses that are appropriate and well-maintained and ready. The second is really 2 things around kind of the culture within NYCSBUS. So first of all, just around preparing and making sure that we've done dry runs. We have staff that is appropriately prepared for the specific children on the bus, that familiarize themselves with what they need to do. And then third, that not only do we provide a full suite of training, not just training on the sort of to the bus minimums, but more training, but also we create a culture in NYCSBUS around service. Fourth sort of area around mitigating is around information and communication to and from families and schools. We hope that we're much more open and are sharing a lot more information. And then finally, culture change in the broad community. And we can start to think about this as a service that we all have to work together to improve. So, to that end, we've started engaging with parents. We have 4 broad approaches. So first, town halls. So we have our first town hall scheduled for Thursday, April 22nd, I guess 6 days from now. And that's being organized by the Arise Coalition, which is one of the coalitions that I'll sort of talk next about some of the coalitions we're working with, but it's one of the primary coalitions of parents concerned about special ed busing. We're going to talk to the Arise Coalition about forming an advisory group of parents to advise NYCSBUS in particular on parent issues. We're going to continue as we exist, not just to work through that advisory group, but work through these coalitions as a good way to organize and work with parents. And then finally, we're going to engage families themselves in our very operations. We'd like to get families involved in helping us design and maybe even deliver training. We'd like to get them to review the public-facing material, which will be multilingual. So before we send out notices to parents, and before we set up those templates, we hope we get parents and advisory groups to help us make sure those are okay. We've talked about, and we need to coordinate with the DOE and their app initiative, but certainly to the extent that we can provide electronic communications to families, we'd like to have families engaged in that. And maybe most broadly, we'd like to think of the city has a service and a design initiative, and we'd like to participate in that and think broadly about our service that starts well before a kid gets on the bus and ends after the kid leaves the bus, and think about designing that with the families. So those are those four big approaches: town halls to engage, working through advisory groups, forming an advisory group, working through these coalitions, and then specifically inviting parents quite literally into the company to help us design our operations. I'm keeping going, but certainly stop me with questions. Just sort of on the groups of parents that we're engaging with. So really three primary groups so far. So first of all, advocates for children. They're the ones that have organized the Arise Coalition. And as I mentioned, we're meeting with them on April 22nd. They, interestingly and separate from this, are also interested in speaking with us about students in temporary housing and ways we might engage. That is a bigger issue, but is already an example of how having another arm of the busing world engaging with others is going to connect us better to the community. Second group is Include NYC. They're going to come to the Engage meeting. They are particularly excited about three things. So one of them is helping us with training of bus staff. The second is really with my idea. Get really excited about work opportunities for students and former students. There's an interesting way that NYCSBUS is, to be blunt, we're going to be a company serving children with special needs, and maybe there could be ways that we could provide work opportunities for people who are graduates of those programs. And then third, I was particularly happy to hear Include NYC talk about this. There are, so I was on the student newspaper in school, and our advisor talked about how there's always articles about how bad lunch is. You got to avoid those. There are always articles about problems in busing, and there are problems in busing. But Include NYC's thought was, there's a lot of great busing stories, right? I mean, I know when I was at OPT, I would go visit schools and you'd see kids get out of school and the smile on their face because the matrons are terrific and the environment on the bus can be lovely. And Include sort of their third thing they would like to do is talk to us about ways that we can get kind of those good stories out as well. And that might go to this idea of changing the culture from one of people get upset about busing to one where we are all working together as a city to make the service better. So second group Include. Third is New York Lawyers for the Public Interest. So they have stepped up really, and they've organized a coalition called the Better Busing Coalition. They're interested in electric buses, but also interested in improved service. And in that great way that our colleagues, lawyers, can kind of help organize people, they're helping move this along. There's a fourth group called Parents to Improve Student Transportation with the fabulous acronym PIST. We're going to engage with them. They have a close relationship to the Amalgamated Transit Union, which we have a good relationship with as well. And as we start labor negotiations, that might be an appropriate time to work with them, because one of the many things that we should feel great about the Amalgamated Transit Union is they too have always thought about working with families. Finally, two other groups, there's schools and the councils on special education. Naida and I have spoke with them. We need to engage with those groups. There is right now a reality of the overwhelmed nature. I mean, there's so much that the DOE is dealing with that it might be better to engage with some of these non-DOE coalitions at first, just because of everything that's going on in education. And then finally, you know, we can't forget that our riders are not just students in public schools, they're students in non-public schools and religious schools. And I haven't yet reached out to, but we will need to reach out to those communities and make sure they are, pardon the pun, coming along for the ride. So that's sort of what we're doing, the environment. I didn't mean that horrible pun, and I'm not seeing any smiles. And that, you know, that sort of covers a parent engagement. Happy to answer questions.
I'm sorry, I was on mute. You said early on that we will be meeting. Who? Can you define who the we is?
the entire staff is meeting with. So you know, the Department of Education has been terrific about supporting us with other staff. So
Okay.
Nicholas and I, in particular, have been working very closely together. Excuse me. I also just today had a good meeting with some of the service design folks, and as they as we start to understand the processes at the company we would like to acquire, and we start to benchmark those processes and map those processes out, they have thought it might be useful to engage them, or engage, not hire, but involve them. They would be interested in joining us as well.
Good.
They're quite excited about this opportunity.
No, I mean, I think the primary purpose of trying to understand that was, it seemed to me that that while all of these are laudable goals, that it seemed some of them were beyond the purview of the corporation and required the cooperation and understanding of the Department of Education. So being a collaborative venture is critical to achieving and listening in that whole process. So I wanted to be sure that we were working in tandem on that count.
So PV, I have not reached out to Sean, who is happily here, to let him know about this, and bad on me. So Sean, you'll be getting an email later on today. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Matt. Any other questions? Okay, wonderful. Our next agenda item is to move to executive session to discuss personnel. Board members and relevant staff will soon be asked to move into a breakout room. Please accept that prompt when you receive it.
Oh, okay. One thing hello, everybody. I want to make sure that the parents that are spoken are parents that actually have children all over New York City, not just people that have chosen to make their own club or whatever they want to do. That's why I spoke to you and said to you very clearly that it's 5 boroughs, and the 5 boroughs have to have representation by the parents that actually are allowed. You start bringing in and making groups, then we're not going to reach the services to the children, because everybody wants a different service. It's about all. And the first thing we need to understand, and we've had problems with the CCs, because when it comes to the buses for years, we've been going through this. So now we're hoping that this will open it for all parents. And remember, I said very clearly about making sure that we have those papers translated. And I had said that the recommendation was that we have these papers go out so the parents have a chance to read about it. And then that gives them the chance to have their CEC meetings to talk about what's happening and how to have it, and their monthly, because it's everybody speaking, but nobody's really actually thinking of what's going on with the kids, because everybody wants to know better than other people. And it's about the kids again, I'm going to say. And parents need to understand what's going on. So we have a whole bunch of groups and everybody wants to help, but we've been going through this for many, many years. And still we don't do anything when it comes to the parents, the actual parents and the children in the 5 boroughs. I'm not just talking Manhattan or Brooklyn, no, all of them. And so if you're going to get a group, it would be a nice group that comes in from each of the boroughs, because that way it will be easy for them to bring out these informations. And we're always going to have problems. We're not all going to agree. And having meetings with people that are going to go for their borough, which they want to look at, you have to look at all of them. And this is what I've said to you, Matt, that my whole thing is about the children and the parents, because there are going to be a lot of people and they're going to say what they want to say, but they're not speaking for the parents and the children, only in their borough. So that's my P. My pet peeve has been that, about speaking to parents. I have already started talking to parents. I went to CEC. I had different conversations, and I've gone through all different pages. The point is that we want parents that are going to understand that they're all children and they all need the services. And it's not just your service, it's our service, and the children too.
Nita, exactly right. And I'm sorry if I wasn't clear that the meeting next week is the first of a series of town halls held by borough, both in person and online. And we are fortunate that we have a number of advocacy organizations and the DOE that will help us make sure that we have broad parent participation in those meetings.
Yeah, and I can tell you for 6 years, or maybe 8 years, I've sat on the CCSE, on the regular, the high school, the elementary. The point is that everybody has a different view of what they want to do. It's about all getting together and seeing what is it that we need, and how do we make the corrections, and how do we make sure that the kids have the services, and everybody has to have it, but it has to be from the borough. I'm going to have a meeting with the superintendent of District 7 and speak to Misha so she could bring in all the Bronx CCs. And there may be a change because the election is coming up, but we need to have the parents that are ready to say, okay, this is what I had and I didn't get it, and this is the promise I have. How are we going to address that? How do we address it about the 5 boroughs? I keep saying it's the 5 boroughs. It's not just New York. No, it's about the schools. It's about the kids and the parents. And then you know that some of the parents work, and then they have sitters that follow and pick up. And these are issues that have to be addressed. But I'm still saying, and I'm going to still continue, it's about the parents and the children. And we have to service the children because it's about the service to our children. We could do whatever we want. At the end of this, at the line, it's about the kids and the parents. And we're going to have problems when you have meetings because nobody agrees. Bronx doesn't agree with Brooklyn, Manhattan doesn't agree. So that's kind of, if you bring in people that are on boards, it's easier than if you bring people from organizations that have no clue of what it is in the different boroughs. I'll keep quiet now.
So I will be sending the prompts your way, and it will send you to the appropriate rooms.
Oh, room 1?
Yes.
Something wrong with this. Why am I have a hand?
I'm not sure, but is it giving you a prompt, Nada, to move into
Room 1.
Yep, that if you press that, it should take you to the right spot.
Okay. Is that it?
Let's see. It should
Because I'm
move you.
saying I have a hand when I go.
We are recording.
Great. board is back to order. Our next order of business is consideration of resolutions. We have 3 resolutions on the agenda. The first resolution relates to authorizing the CEO to execute the negotiated services contract between NYCSBUS and DOE for the provision of busing services. This would be a 5.5-year contract with an average annual value of $166 million during the full years of service. Do I have a motion to put the item on the table?
Second.
Second, excellent. Are there any questions about the resolution? All in favor? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The resolution is approved. The second resolution on our agenda relates to designating Lockton as NYCSBUS's broker of record. Board directors, you may recall that at our March 16th, 2021 meeting, the board designated Lockton as broker of record for purpose of securing directors and officers insurance. This resolution would authorize Lockton to represent NYCSBUS in the insurance marketplace and return to the board with an insurance policy option, with a set of insurance policy options consistent with the coverage that will be required once the negotiated services contract with the DOE is effective. Do I have a motion to put the item on the table?
Second.
Are there any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The motion is approved. The final resolution on our agenda relates to authorizing the CEO to execute a contract to retain Daryl Eric as an advisor and consultant to provide strategic advice regarding the operations of the corporation as we transition to running bus services. Daryl served over 30 years in the MTA, retiring as Senior Vice President of Buses. He will bring that wealth of experience and knowledge to the CEO and the board to help us better ensure that NYCSBUS is ready to go on day 1. Do I have a motion to put the item on the table? Second. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The resolution is approved. This concludes our agenda. There being no further business, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion is approved and the meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.
Have a good weekend.
Thank you all.
Thank you all.
Goodbye.
Have a good weekend.
Bye.